Welcome back. The next step after creating the null and alternative hypothesis would be to analyze the data and see if it supports that alternative hypothesis. So that would be our computation-based steps, and that is called the test statistic and the p-value. We're actually going to hold off on this until the next experience and focus now just on the setup of the tests, the components that go into it, kind of get the skeleton established for this hypothesis testing system without getting too bogged down with the computations. So we're going to skip those two steps. Now we will jump to the conclusion step. There are two possible conclusions, and there's a technical way to express those, and there's a more everyday way that we should also practice. Now, one of those conclusions, right, we've got this hypothesis, and we want to see if the data supports the alternative hypothesis. That's usually the thing that is being investigated, right? So one conclusion is possibly when the data supports the alternative. The other possible conclusion is when the sample data does not support the alternative hypothesis. Now, this is, I hope, a reasonably not too difficult way to think about that conclusion, but the technical way in which we express those is we either reject the null hypothesis or we do not reject the null hypothesis. So we like to mention this red underlined version, but in black, when we've got some context to work with, we like to kind of state what it is the hypothesis was about and what does this mean about the parameter we are investigating. I have a cautionary statement to make. Because we are using sample data to infer to populations, remember that sample data is subject to sampling variability. And so we can never prove a hypothesis. Our data may support a hypothesis, but we can never prove any hypothesis based on sample data. Therefore, when we state a conclusion, we need to state them in a very careful way. And you'll see this illustrated in the textbook and in the homework. Careful wording of these conclusions. We'll do an example here shortly.